All right, strap in, everyone, because today we're going deep
Yeah.
into the life and crimes of Roy Melanson.
Oh, yeah, this one's gonna be good.
And a big thank you to the listener who sent us all these articles about him.
Right, giving us plenty to dig into.
They want to understand, like, what he actually did,
Sure.
but also how he's able to evade capture for so long.
Yeah, how did he stay under the radar?
Seems like a lot of it had to do with his lifestyle,
Oh, absolutely.
that he was a drifter.
Drifter.
That's going to be a theme running through all of this.
A recurring theme, for sure.
And it makes it even more intriguing, you know?
It really does.
We've got a beauty queen at a county fair,
Mm.
and then a mysterious disappearance
Mm-hmm.
down in Texas,
Oh, yeah.
and then a deadly encounter at a laundromat.
That's just scratching the surface.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning,
Let's rewind.
with Melanson's early life.
Back to the start.
So he was born in 1937,
Down in Louisiana.
Breaux Bridge, Louisiana,
Uh-huh.
and it seems like he was in and out of trouble
Right from the start.
pretty much his whole life.
Yeah, trouble seemed to find him.
Or maybe he found it.
Maybe he found the trouble.
Who knows? But
He's-
yeah, we're talking about burglaries,
Oh, yeah.
even rapes.
And get this, he even allegedly killed a fellow inmate
Wow.
while he was in prison in Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Now, details on that are pretty scarce.
Yeah,
But it's a chilling detail nonetheless.
it is.
So he gets released in 1988.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that.
Mm.
Like someone with that kind of history,
You'd think,
you wouldn't just let him back out,
right, back into society.
especially just months before another suspected murder.
Yeah, it really raises some questions
Makes you wonder.
about the system back then. Like,
Right.
was there enough emphasis on rehabilitation?
Were there warning signs that were missed?
Right. These are all things we can learn from to
Exactly.
try to improve.
For the future.
Absolutely, to improve how we assess risk today.
Right.
So,
So now we've got this guy with a history of violence
Right.
back on the streets.
mm,
And we jump ahead to 1974 in Napa Valley, California.
wine country.
Yeah. And our victim here is Anita Andrews,
A hardworking single mom,
a single mom trying to make ends meet.
51 years old.
Yeah, working 2 jobs,
She was a real trooper.
working at the state hospital
Uh-huh.
and also tending bar at her family's bar.
Fajani's Cocktail Lounge.
It's heartbreaking to think what happened to her,
Yeah, it's a real tragedy.
especially when you consider that she was a county fair beauty queen at one point.
Oh, wow. Imagine that.
Talk about life taking a dark turn.
No kidding.
So on July 10th, 1974,
Uh-huh.
Anita was closing up the bar,
It was late.
and there were witnesses
Right, a few people around,
who said they saw a man hanging around.
just kind of loitering.
But that's all they knew.
That's the last anyone saw of her alive.
And later, she was found,
Brutally murdered.
yeah, raped, stepped 13 times with a screwdriver.
Oh my gosh.
And they even took her car.
Her Cadillac
It's
Eldorado.
awful.
The level of violence is just...
It's just rage.
It really points to that.
They did find some clues at the scene, though,
Yeah, there was a cigarette butt,
and some fingerprints.
but back then, forensic technology.
It wasn't what it is today.
Not even close.
So the case went cold.
And then get this.
A month later,
Just a month later.
Melanson turns up in Gunnison County, Colorado.
Talk about covering your tracks.
Like a phantom.
He just vanishes.
Yeah.
And reappears somewhere else.
So what's he doing in Colorado?
Well, he reinvents himself
Oh,
as this
God.
rugged outdoorsman.
Oh, wow.
And even convinces a local rancher
Wait, really?
to hire him to help with predators.
Oh, my gosh.
Killing his sheep.
He's supposed to be this experienced sheep herder.
That's the story he sold.
Wow. With his record.
That's the thing about these drifters.
I know. How did he pull that off?
They can be incredibly charming.
I guess so.
Manipulative, too.
And they know how to read people.
Figure out what they want to hear.
Right. And then they tailor their persona accordingly.
That's kind of scary, you know?
It is.
That someone could be that good at manipulation.
Well, it works
I guess so.
because we want to believe the best in people.
I guess we do.
And predators like Melanson, they exploit that.
So are you ready for this?
Oh, this is where it gets good.
This is where things take another dark turn.
Another twist.
So Melanson is at this bar,
Timbers Bar.
meets a ranch hand named Charles Matthews,
Just a regular guy.
and asks him for a ride.
A ride home.
But Matthews' car breaks down.
Oh no, what happened next?
Guess who comes along and offers them a lift?
Who?
Another unsuspecting victim,
Oh,
Michelle Wallace.
Michelle Wallace.
This young woman who'd been backpacking in the area,
Yeah.
spots them and offers them a ride.
What a good Samaritan. Sadly, that kindness would cost her.
Oh no.
So they all pile in.
And drive off together.
Well, they drop Matthews off first.
Right.
But after that, Michelle and Melanson just vanish.
Oh no. Poof, gone.
It's like she disappeared into thin air.
It wasn't until the early 90s.
Wow, that's like almost 2 decades later
Almost 2 decades later.
that they found her remains.
Off this remote mountain road.
It's chilling.
It's a chilling thought.
That he was out there
Yeah.
living his life.
while her family had no idea what happened to her.
And all this was before DNA technology really took off.
Right. Imagine trying to solve these cases back then.
It must have been nearly
It
impossible.
was like trying to solve a puzzle with half of the pieces missing.
So frustrating for everyone involved.
Especially for Michelle's family.
Can you imagine?
Knowing that someone out there
Being responsible.
may be responsible for your loved one's disappearance.
But you just can't prove it.
That's what they had to endure for years.
It's unbearable.
It is.
So where do we go from here?
Onward.
What's the next stop on this twisted journey?
Well, let's just say things get even more complicated.
Okay, so last we left off, Michelle Wallace had disappeared.
Vanished without a trace.
And the trail soon to go cold for a while.
Yeah, Melanson was good at covering his tracks.
But then we jump ahead to 1988.
Back in Texas.
And Melanson is living with his ex-wife and her new boyfriend.
Quite the arrangement.
Right. They're renting a house from this woman.
Pauline Clump
here.
51 years old.
And this is where things get really eerie.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up.
So Pauline asks Melanson to help her with a few things around the house.
Just some odd jobs.
Like fixing your air conditioner
Uh-huh.
and picking up a TV for her.
Sounds simple enough, right?
Right. Like just running errands.
Except that's the last time anyone ever saw her.
Wait, seriously. Just vanished. Poof.
What happened? Her husband comes home,
Yeah.
finds a pot of gumbo on the stove.
Oh, no.
That's been cooking for days.
Like she just stepped out of her life and never came back.
It's like she just disappeared into thin air.
And they found her car
Days later.
abandoned with the TV still inside.
So was she taken by force?
We don't know. Did she go willingly?
It's a mystery.
Or did something happen to her on the way back with that TV?
The detective on the case, Scott Gaspard,
Yeah.
he always suspected Melanson.
Well, he was the last one to see her.
True.
But without a body, without any evidence.
It's hard to build a case.
I mean, come on. Given his history.
It's definitely suspicious.
It's hard to believe it's just a coincidence.
I agree, but we have to be careful about jumping to conclusions.
Right.
The lack of evidence doesn't automatically mean Melanson is guilty.
It just means we have a lot more questions than answers.
Exactly.
So Pauline's disappearance remains a mystery.
An unsolved puzzle.
And just a month later,
Melanson pops up again.
this time in Walker, Louisiana,
The guy gets around.
he's at a laundromat
Just doing his laundry.
when he overhears this young woman, Charlotte Sauerwin,
24 years old.
talking about how her fiancé is saving up to buy some land.
Young love, planning for the future.
Yeah, and that's when Melanson, he sees an opportunity.
And pounces.
Oh, no.
He pretends to be a land developer,
Oh,
offers Charlotte this incredible deal.
I bet. Too good to be true.
Of course.
Like he was a predator.
Just waiting to strike.
And Charlotte fell for it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
When they were alone, he attacked her.
Raped, tortured, and ultimately strangled her.
Oh, my God.
He tried to hide her body, but thankfully, he wasn't very good at covering his tracks.
It's like he leaves this trail of devastation wherever he goes.
It's almost unbelievable he managed to evade capture for so long.
I know, right?
Well, remember, he was a drifter.
Yeah.
No fixed address, no real ties to anyone.
He was like a ghost.
Blending in, then disappearing just as quickly.
But every ghost story has an ending, right?
Oh, yeah.
So tell me, what finally brings Melanson down?
Well, his luck runs out in January of 1992.
What happened?
He's arrested in Kentucky.
For what?
Burglary.
Burglary.
Petty theft was his undoing.
Are you serious?
All those heinous crimes.
And he gets caught for stealing.
Sometimes it's the smallest things that trip you up.
Wow.
But here's the thing.
What?
That same year, they discover Michelle Wallace's remains.
Oh, wow. The young woman who disappeared with him back in '74.
Yeah.
So they finally had enough to connect him to that case.
Absolutely. They find Michelle's car in his possession.
Wow.
Along with some of her belongings.
The evidence was finally there.
And get this, there was a camera.
What?
With photos of him and a teenage girl.
Oh, no.
They haven't been able to identify her.
Oh, my gosh.
It's chilling to think who that girl might have been.
And what might have happened to her.
We may never know.
It's just layer after layer.
This horrifying
The
onion.
deeper you go, the more disturbing it gets.
And the story doesn't end there.
Oh, gosh, there's more.
Remember how I mentioned forensic technology was so limited back in the 70s?
Yeah.
Well, in the year 2000, a new law comes out
Okay.
requiring convicted felons to submit their DNA.
And?
Melanson's DNA matches the evidence.
No way.
From Anita Andrews and Charlotte Sauerwin's murders.
Wait, so we're talking decades later.
Decades.
And his DNA finally catches up with him.
It's a testament to the power of science.
It's incredible.
To unlock secrets, even after all these years.
Like those crime shows where they zoom in on a microscopic piece of evidence.
Exactly.
Bam, they've got their guy.
And in Melanson's case, it was his DNA that finally exposed him.
Wow.
For the monster he truly was.
It really was a game changer.
Not just for those specific cases.
But for law enforcement agencies across the country.
They started started combing through their cold cases,
looking for any possible connection to Melanson.
It was like a ripple effect.
His crimes reaching out from the past.
To touch the present.
Did they find any other connections?
Well, the investigation is ongoing.
Still.
They're still actively reviewing cold cases.
Wow.
Looking for any potential links to Melanson.
It's amazing to think that even after his death,
his crimes are still unraveling.
But even with DNA evidence and convictions,
there are still so many unanswered questions.
like Pauline Klump?
We still don't know for sure what happened to her.
It's like she just vanished into thin air.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Do you think Melanson had anything to do with it?
It's certainly possible.
He was living in her house at the time.
He was the last person to see her alive.
And his history of violence against women can't be ignored.
All signs point to him, but we may never know for sure.
It's frustrating that we may never know the truth.
I understand.
But I guess that's the nature of these cases, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Some mysteries may never be solved.
It's a harsh reality.
But it's important to keep searching for those answers.
Absolutely.
For the sake of the victims.
And their families.
So we've talked about the victims, the DNA evidence, and the unanswered questions.
The pieces of the puzzle.
But what about Melanson himself?
What about the man behind the mask?
What kind of man could commit such horrific acts?
Well, he was described as charming.
Charming.
Manipulative.
Of course.
And utterly devoid of empathy.
Like a void?
He seemed to take pleasure in the suffering of others.
Ah, that's just sick.
And he showed no remorse for his crimes.
Did he ever confess?
No, he remained tight-lipped.
Even when confronted with the evidence?
Even then.
It's like he enjoyed the notoriety.
The power he held over his victims.
Even from behind bars.
A puppet master pulling the strings.
It's chillin'.
There's a certain arrogance to it, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Like he was relishing the fear and uncertainty he had inflicted.
So with Melanson gone?
Dead, but not forgotten.
Are there any ongoing investigations related to his crimes?
Oh, absolutely.
Still?
Law enforcement agencies are still actively reviewing cold cases.
Wow, they haven't given up.
Looking for any potential links to Melanson.
Hoping to find some answers.
And with advancements in DNA technology,
there's always hope.
They're hopeful that they might be able to solve some of these mysteries.
Like a race against time.
Trying to piece together the fragments of a shattered past.
And for the families of the victims?
That's a chance to finally find some peace.
And closure.
Exactly.
It's incredible how a single person can leave such a wide swath of destruction.
It's a sobering thought.
It really is.
But even in the face of such darkness,
there's always hope.
Hope for justice, hope for healing.
What do you think is the biggest takeaway from Melanson's story?
What can we learn from this dark chapter in human history?
What do you think?
I think it highlights the importance of awareness.
Awareness.
Of listening to our instincts.
And?
Of never taking our safety for granted.
Melanson was a master manipulator.
He was able to blend in.
And exploit the trust of those around him.
That case is a chilling reminder.
That evil can lurk in the most unexpected places.
And that we must always be vigilant.
It's a sobering thought.
But an important one.
And for those who are fascinated by true crime, like our listener.
Right, those who want to delve into these dark corners of human behavior.
What advice would you give them?
Approach these stories with empathy and respect for the victims.
Remember, these aren't just abstract cases.
They involve real people.
Who suffered unimaginable loss.
Avoid sensationalizing or glorifying the perpetrators.
Focus on understanding the motivations.
And learning how we can prevent these crimes from happening again.
It's not about entertainment.
It's about seeking justice.
And finding ways to make our world a safer place.
Absolutely.
It's also about recognizing the resilience of the human spirit.
Despite the horrors they endured.
The families of Melanson's victims never gave up hope.
They fought tirelessly for justice.
Their strength is an inspiration.
It truly is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive
into the life and crimes of Roy Melanson,
I want to leave our listener with a final thought.
A question to ponder.
We've explored the dark side of Roy Melanson's life.
His crimes, his victims.
But what about the untold stories?
The ones that might still be chidden in the shadows.
How many other victims might be out there?
What other secrets did Melanson take to his grave?
It's a reminder that, even in the face of closure,
there are always more mysteries to unravel.
More truths to uncover.
The pursuit of justice is an ongoing journey.
And we must never stop seeking answers.
Even when the trail seems cold.
We owe it to the victims.
To their families.
And to ourselves.
To keep searching for the truth.
No matter how difficult and disturbing it may be.
The truth will set us free.
Wow, what a deep dive this has been.
Right.
Unraveling the mysteries of Roy Melanson.
This drifter who just
left a trail of tragedy.
Yeah, and unanswered questions.
Across the country.
It's mind-boggling.
And even though he's gone now.
Died in prison.
Back in 2020.
Yeah, May 2020.
The ripples of his crimes are still being felt today.
Absolutely.
You know, we talked about Pauline Klump.
Uh-huh.
That woman who vanished from her own home.
While Melanson was living there.
Detective Gaspard seems pretty divorced that Melanson was involved,
Yeah, he seems pretty sure.
but without any hard evidence.
It's still just a mystery.
Do you think we'll ever know for sure what happened to her?
It's hard to say.
I mean, sometimes these cases just
They go cold,
and stay cold.
no matter how much effort is put into them.
But then again,
Look at what happened with
Anita Andrews and Charlotte Sauer.
decades past.
And just when it seemed like those cases would never be solved
DNA technology came along.
and changed everything.
That's incredible.
Science is constantly evolving.
It really is.
Who knows what new breakthroughs might be just around the corner?
Right.
Maybe someday we'll have the tools to crack open.
Even the most stubborn cold cases.
It would be incredible
to give a voice to the voiceless.
to bring justice to those who have been denied it for so long.
Imagine the relief for the families.
A victory for the pursuit of truth.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Into the life and crimes of Roy Melanson.
what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this?
What's the most important lesson we can learn?
What do you think?
I think it's the importance of awareness.
Awareness.
Recognizing that evil can wear many masks,
It can.
hide in plain sight,
And exploit our trust.
and our vulnerabilities.
Melanson's case is a stark reminder
We can never be too careful.
that we should trust our instincts.
And never be afraid to ask for help.
If we feel threatened or unsafe,
Exactly.
it's easy to get caught up in the details of these cases.
The twists and turns.
The forensic evidence.
But ultimately,
It's about protecting ourselves
and our loved ones.
and remembering the victim,
Their lives, their stories.
their hopes and dreams.
Those are the things we should focus on.
Not the gruesome details of their deaths.
Or the notoriety of their killer.
Well said.
Thank you.
And for those who are interested in exploring true crime further,
Right, like our listener.
what advice would you give them?
I would say approach these stories with respect,
Effective sensitivity.
remembering that behind every case file,
There are real people.
who suffered unimaginable loss.
Don't sensationalize or glorify the violence.
Right.
Instead, try to understand
The complexities of human behavior, the factors that lead someone down a path of darkness.
every ways we can work together.
To create a safer and more just world.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
This has been a truly thought-provoking deep dive.
It has been.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And a big thank you to our listener.
For submitting this fascinating case.
It's been fascinating and disturbing.
Yeah, I hope we've shed some light on the dark world of Roy Melanson.
I think we have.
And provided some valuable insights into the nature of evil.
And the pursuit of justice.
It's never-ending battle.
So remember, even though this deep dive is over,
the search for answers
never truly ends.
Stay curious.
Stay informed.
And stay safe out there.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.